This- Hey friends, it's Judy Klock, your Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator, coming to you from Middletown, Virginia. And tonight's tutorial, we're going to feature the beautiful Lights of Aurora suite. So let me switch out my cameras and show you what we're going to be working with tonight. There we go. So the Lights of Aurora bundle, it's a suite actually, comes with the Light and Wonder stamp set and dies. It's got 11 stamps. It's got 9 dies that will cut out 2 different sizes of evergreen trees, a few clouds, and then some layering pieces to make scenes. So I've started one. I'll show you a little bit. I haven't quite finished it. But this is what we're starting. So you can layer them up to have the evergreens in front of the lake, the evergreens behind, the mountains. I'm still kind of working on building the mountains, but that is just an idea of what you can do with these layering dies, how you can layer them up to create a scene. It also comes with the beautiful, what are these? These are frosted iridescent dots. So it's got the balmy blue, the Highland heather, berry burst, and it looks like sort of a clear or iridescent type of color. And then you've got this beautiful Lights of Aurora paper. So it's made to mimic the northern lights or the aurora borealis. So how pretty are these? These are just so pretty. And the backs are just solid colors. I can tell you what colors are in there in a minute. So these are just, we're working with this one tonight. We'll be working with this one tonight. And we'll be working with, what was the other one we're going to work with tonight? We're going to be working with this one tonight. So those are the 3 sheets we're going to be working with tonight. This one, and this one. And I'll show you what we're going to do with each of these. Now the colors in here are Azure Afternoon, Balmy Blue, Basic Black, Berry Burst, Blackberry Bliss, Gorgeous Grape, Highland Heather, Lost Lagoon, Petunia Pop, Pool Party, and Very Vanilla. I'm going to be honest, I don't really see the Very Vanilla in here too much. I almost think it's more of a white, but that's what it says on the package. So I'm just telling you what the package says. So let's take a look at the cards we're going to work with tonight. Now, the first one is a very simple stamping card. This is suitable for someone who's just getting started. I just took one of those beautiful 6x6 sheets of paper and I cut it in half. I cut 4 3x3 squares. We're going to mount them on just some coordinating cardstock. So this was mounted on the Highland Heather. These 2 were mounted on the Berry Burst. And these came side by side. So those are just one of the cards that we can make. So we're going to do that one. They're going to step it up. We're going to do a little heat embossing right on the beautiful DSP. So this says, wishing you a year of magic. And inside we used happy birthday from the, oh my gosh, not the Simply Set. I'll have to get the name of the stamp set that I used for that one. I have it over here somewhere. I put it somewhere so that it would be out of my way. And now it's really out of my way. Here it is. From the With You in Mind stamp set. So I used the happy birthday from the With You in Mind stamp set, and which just now fell on the floor. My desk is literally like a Jenga game. And then we're going to do a fun fold. This one is one of my favorites, and it's so suited for what I call like a scene paper, because when you open it, you can use one whole piece of 6x6. So this is 6 inches across. It's 5.5. So I just cut off like an 1/8 of an inch at the top and bottom. So I made it 5.5 from that 6. But you've got that whole sheet of paper, and how pretty is that? And I just did some die cut black trees just for a little contrast, and then just a little bit of a simple sentiment. So great thank you card. Not a lot of room to write, but hopefully don't have a big thank you to say. So those are our 3 cards. So let's go ahead and get started. So for our first card, and as always, I will have all the measurements on the corresponding blog post, so no need to worry about writing everything down right now. I have a piece of thick basic white. It is 8.5 by 5.5, obviously scored at 4.25, just like we usually do. Okay. I have a piece of Highland Heather cardstock. It's 3.25 by 3.25, and then just another piece of that beautiful designer series paper. And I want to make sure that I'm going to use this. That's how it would look. So that's a continuous look. So I want to make sure I use it the right way. And sometimes what I like to do is after I cut it, I like to come and put like on the back a little T. So I know that's my top. That's just a little trick that you can do. Just put a little T on there, and then you'll know that that's where you want it to be on the top. So let's go ahead and layer up our designer series paper and our cardstock. This is just such a pretty, pretty paper. And I love the colors in it. So easy peasy. And then we're going to pop this onto our card front with some Stampin' Dimensionals. Oh, and it looks like I am at the end of this one. So we're going to just break off some pieces here because these edge pieces will still work. Never hesitate to use your edge pieces. They are still good. They will still work. Got to get your money's worth, right, out of all your supplies. Hey, just a quick aside. The current join special, which is phenomenal, ends tomorrow on October 31st. So if you are at all thinking about joining because you want to get your supplies at a discount, you want to craft with a fun community, join now, because after tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, this join offer goes away, and you can sign up for $35, and you can select $125 worth of product, or you can pay $99 and get $189 worth of product. So either way, it's a really good deal. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to come in here. We're going to stamp a very quick sentiment. It's just going to say, may your day be filled with, and we're going to then stamp wonder. I'm just going to stamp that right there. And then we're going to come in here with our wonder. Okay, and I know I usually say stamp then stick, but we're stamping right on our card. So if we had made a mistake, we could always cut out another piece of cardstock to put over it. So nothing is ever fatal or final. There's always a way to fix every mistake. And then we're going to come in and we're going to put some of those really pretty resin dots in here, iridescent dots. And I'm going to use the purple ones since I went with the whole purple theme. Stick one there, maybe one there, and maybe we'll put a small one over there. So that is our first card. How is that? Pretty easy peasy, right? Very simple, but oh so pretty with that beautiful designer series paper. All right, that was card number 1. Let's go on to card number 2. For this, I have selected a base of Blackberry Bliss. Again, 8.5, 5.5, scored at 4.25. You want to make sure you burnish that fold with your bone folder so you get a nice crisp crease. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp on the inside. I'm going to stamp Happy Birthday in our Blackberry Bliss. Because remember, we're going to do some heat embossing on the front of our card. So let me grab my stamp. And we are just going to stamp Happy Birthday. Okay. Oh, you know what? I don't like the way that came out, so I'm going to flip it over. And that's why you stamp before you stick. Because if you don't like it, you can always redo it. See? And nobody will ever be the wiser because you're going to stick that other side down to our card base. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stick this on the inside of our card just so I can have some room. Okay. And we're going to put this right in here. Okay. All right, now let's get ready to emboss on our designer series paper. So I have here our embossing additions toolkit. I've got my little tray. Got my Versamark. Where is my, I don't see my embossing buddy. I had that here somewhere to take off the static. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. So what you want to do is you want to take your embossing buddy and you want to rub it over the cardstock where you want to emboss. And the reason you do that, it kind of takes away some static, and this way the thought is that the embossing powder won't stick to the areas where there is not the ink. So that's the thought. I don't know if it always works 100% that way, but that's the general thought behind it. Okay, so now we're going to come in with our Versamark. We're going to stamp, and I put both stamps. I put them both on one block. Wishing you a year of magic. Okay, and I'm just going to make sure I get this nice and inky. Okay, and then we're going to stamp right here. Okay, make sure I get it nicely done. Oh no! Well, you know what? Now that I've dropped it, I'm going to have to get a new piece of paper because that one now has the ink where I don't want it. So let's just cut a new piece of paper real quick. Okay, this is why we do this. And we'll use that other piece of paper for another project. Let's cut it to 4. Whoops. I'll never cut it with my scoring blade. By 5 1/4. Okay. All right. Move this out of the way. So my puppies were not happy with me tonight because I locked them out of the basement. Sometimes I like having them down here, but they've been a little too vocal today, shall we say. Just barking at everything. So we kind of left them upstairs tonight. So, all right, let's make sure that we do this, and let's try not to drop it again. There we go. Now I'm going to take my embossing powder and I'm going to stick it over, and I forgot to go over that with the embossing buddy, didn't I? Well, oh my gosh, I almost dropped the whole thing of powder. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, I like to make sure that we get that embossing powder kind of out of those areas where we don't want it. Okay, there's a little bit on there around that M that I don't want to brush too much because I don't want to mess up the M. All right, that looks better. I'm going to put this over here out of the way. Okay, now I got to plug in my heat tool. I unplugged it because I needed to charge my phone. But now I'll unplug the phone charger and put this back in. All right, here we go. And somewhere in this mess, I also had a tweezer to help hold it because it can get a little hot when you're doing that. And I don't know where I put my tweezer down, someplace safe, and I can't find it now. Well, you know, it is what it is, right? So we're just going to go and hold it, and hopefully we don't burn. Oh, there it is. What do you know? When I moved my heat tool, I found it. So I got a reverse tweezer here. I'm just going to use it to hold my paper so I don't burn my fingers. It's going to get a little loud, and we're just going to set that embossing powder. And as it starts to get shiny, that's when you know that it's setting. I don't know if you can see that. There's some that's shiny and some that's not. But once it's shiny, that is set. So we are done. Okay. So we are done with that. That is all set. That's looking real. Oh, you know what? We're not all set. Some of the M, I can still see the powder. It's not shiny. Let's go here. Let's go here and get that M all set. Okay, Now everything looks all shiny. So we are good. Now I wanted to take a piece of the ribbon. Oh, I forgot. That was the other thing that came with the suite, which I forgot to show you, is this beautiful balmy blue sheer ribbon. I love this ribbon. It ties so nicely. And you know me, I love a good ribbon. Okay, so I'm going to cut off about 6 inches. Okay. All right, now I'm going to wrap this around and I'm going to adhere it to the back. There are 2 ways that you can adhere it to the back. One is you can add some Stampin' Seal and just stick the end on the Stampin' Seal. That's one way to do it. Another way is to take some tape and just tape it down. But I want to make sure that it's straight on the front before I tape it down. So you want to make sure it's pretty tight. Okay, and then you can just tape this down. So again, your choice. If you don't have Scotch tape, you can always use your Stampin' Seal. I just wanted to show you both options. Now, because this was embossed and it's going to probably like bow just a little bit, I'm going to actually put this on with some liquid glue. And I think that's the one that's almost empty. So let's get the one that's a little bit more full. And you don't need a lot. We just are going to put a light coat down, right? Because the last thing you want is for it to seep out. But I'm going to kind of put some right where I know where my embossing is, which is in this corner, because I can feel it. And now we're going to go ahead and add this to our card front. Okay. All right. I'm just going to make sure you push it down. Like I said, because we did the heat embossing on the paper, sometimes the paper kind of bows a little. So you just want to make sure you get it all down nice and flat. Okay. Actually, while that's working, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put those on it. I'm going to cut another length of ribbon. I'm going to cut about 10 to 12 inches. And the reason why I'm doing that is I want to make a bow to put on my card. So I want to make sure I have enough to make a nice bow. Okay, so I got about 12 inches of ribbon here. And if you don't know, our grid sheets come with a ruler on the bottom. So that's what I just used my little ruler down here. See it? I have a ruler down here. I measured out about 12 inches. So I'm going to come back to my card. And I want to go on the right side. So I'm going to go this. Now, there's a little trick that I learned when I went to Janet Wakeland's to one of her events. If I want my tails to point down, I'm actually going to fold it. I'm going to tie the bow so like upside down. So it would look like the tails would be facing me. But when we're done, they'll actually end up facing down. I don't know how this works, but it does. But this ribbon just ties so beautifully. I love these sheer ribbons. They just make the best bows. And I just love a good bow. You know, I'm going to play with it just a little bit because I don't want my things to be too big. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now, just going to make sure. Let's see. And now you see how they ended up pointing down, even though we tied it upside down. It's like magic. That's why we're wishing everybody a year of magic, because we had our magic bow. All right. Now, if you want, you can certainly go ahead and add some of those dots, the iridescent dots to it if you want. I think I'm going to leave this one just like this for now. All right. Let's go on to our third card. This is that fun fold with that beautiful panoramic paper. So now I have a piece of gorgeous grape. It is 8.5 by 5.5. I have scored it at 1.5 and 4 1/4. So the 1.5 fold becomes a mountain fold, and that's because it looks like it's a mountain. And the 4 1/4 becomes a valley fold. So that is actually going to be our card front. Then I die cut a piece of basic black and I backed it first with an adhesive sheet to make it easier to stick on our card. This is for our sentiment. We're going to use a new punch that will be available, excuse me, on November 3rd. It is the triple label punch. I have another piece of gorgeous grape. This is 1 inch by 5.5. We're going to use this here. And I've embossed it with the Soft Waves embossing folder because I kind of wanted to get that feeling of the kind of the swirling lights. And then I have one piece of our designer series paper. Now this was 6 inches, and this is very important. You want to keep it in order. So I cut it from going from like left to right. I cut at 2 3/4 and 1 1/4, and then that left me with a 2-inch piece. Now you'll notice on the back, so I make sure to put them on. This is going to go on the left side. This is going to go in the middle, and this is going to go on the right. So this piece is going to go here. Now it's 5.5, but it's still going to be a little bit, we're still going to see a little bit of that edge. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some liquid glue on this flap. Okay. I'm going to open it up because when I put this down, I want to make sure that it's not going to be too far over to see my middle piece, which goes here. So this one I'm going to put pretty close to that fold line, to that score line. That's going to go in the middle. Okay. Again, liquid glue just helps you to play with it a little bit. And you see how our pattern is staying? Okay, so that's going to go there. Move that down just a smidge. And then this piece is going to go right here, kind of right next on the other side of that 4 1/4 fold line. That when the card is opened, you get to see that whole beautiful piece of designer series paper. So we're going to go ahead and put that right there. And then I've got a 2-inch piece of basic white that's going to go in here. That's where we can write our message. Make sure this is okay. I'm going to put that right up against that designer series paper. Let's go ahead and add that. So really, once you have the pieces cut, it's really pretty easy to put them together. But I just thought this was a great fold for this gorgeous paper. We've got that. So now when it's open, you'll get to see the whole scene. When it's closed, we're going to put our trees on the front. Our trees are going to go right there. Now they're a little bit bigger, so I'm going to trim off kind of like this last little bit of tree here. Okay, let's make sure. Okay, that looks good. Now, you'll notice that some of the pieces are still in there. When I take off the adhesive sheet, those pieces should, being the operative word, come out. So I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to get other pieces out. There's one piece that didn't come out. Okay. But for the most part, when you lift off that adhesive sheet, anything that was stuck will also come out. So don't spend hours trying to poke out all those little cut pieces. All right, we're going to put our tree there. Okay, I got a little piece stuck to my finger. Okay, now we're going to add a piece of ribbon to our embossed piece. This is going to be probably about 6.5, 7 inches because, again, it's going to wrap around. We're not going to wrap it around the whole thing, but we are going to wrap it around the top and bottom so that it, and again, adhere it with This I am going to actually use tape because I have embossed this piece, and Stampin' Seal has a tendency to rip the cardstock once it's embossed. So we are going to use just a little piece of regular tape. Regular plain old Scotch tape will work just fine. Okay, again, make sure you pull it tight. You don't want it to be too loose. You want to make sure it's nice and tight. We're just going to adhere that other piece there. Now we're going to glue this to our card base. Okay. Glue this right here. And this is also 5. This is 5.5 by 1. Okay, I'm just going to let that set for a moment. Now I'm going to take that new punch. This is the triple banner punch. It does 3 different banners, and I want that first one with the little flag on the end. So I'm just going to take a scrap of basic white, punch my banner. Then we have a pretty little thank you that's part of this set, and we're going to stamp our thank you in our gorgeous grape. Okay, we're just going to stamp that pretty little thank you. Okay, and then I'm going to pop this on with some dimensionals. I am going to use, because it's such a small piece, I definitely want to use the regular dimensionals. We're going to pop our little thank you. Oops. I'm going to pop that right up here. Then I'm going to tie one more piece of ribbon around the top in a knot. So probably about 4 inches, maybe 4 to 5 inches. And again, we can always trim down what we're not going to use. Better to have it be just a little tiny bit bigger than what you need. But we're just going to tie this right around here. Okay, and then we're just going to trim it. Trim the ends to however long you want them to be. And I like to cut them on an angle. I just think it looks just a tiny bit fancier. So that is our third card. Isn't that a pretty fun fold and a great way to use those scenic pieces of designer series paper? So now you've got the whole scene. That's all 6 inches. We just cut off a little tiny bit on the top and bottom. So those are our 3 cards for tonight. I hope that you liked them. I hope you will give this set a try. This is called the Lights of Aurora. And I really love this set. I love the colors in there. And I just think that paper is absolutely gorgeous. That's it for me. Have a good night, everybody. I'll be back next week. Bye.